Welcome to Movie Rehash. Today, I'm going to explain an American psychological thriller film released in 2011, called The Roommate. Watch out and take care. Let's start. The movie starts with Sarah, leaving her small hometown to attend college in Los Angeles. She arrives at there and heads to her dorm room. Since her roommate hasn't arrived yet, Sarah chooses her side of the room and starts settling in. During this time, she meets Tracy, another freshman, and her roommate Kim. They introduce with each other and the girls invite Sarah to the party. The three of them decide to attend a party hosted by a fraternity on campus. At the party, Sarah enjoys herself by dancing and having some drinks. She catches the attention of the drummer in the band with her moves. As she leaves the dance floor, the drummer accidentally bumps into her, causing beer to spill all over her shirt. Apologetic, he introduces himself as Steven, a student who is also part of the fraternity. As they engage in conversation, they notice Tracy, who is quite drunk, lifting her shirt and flashing the partygoers. Concerned for her well-being, Sarah and Steven decide to help her and take her back to her dorm room. Tracy expresses her gratitude for their assistance and kisses Steven goodnight before they part ways. As Sarah enters her room in the dark, she accidentally trips over some luggage, realizing that her roommate, Rebecca, has already moved in. At first, Sarah does not recognize her. Then Rebecca tells her she is her roommate. Sarah, feeling the effects of her drunken state, falls asleep and wakes up the next day to finally meet Rebecca. The two roommates decide to go shopping together at the campus bookstore to get their supplies. While they are there, Sarah's phone rings, displaying a call from Jason. She explains to Rebecca that Jason used to be her boyfriend, but they broke up. Sarah declines the call, and they head back to their room. Curiosity sparks as they take a look at each other's artwork. Sarah is studying fashion design, while Rebecca is an art major. Rebecca expresses her admiration for Sarah's portfolio, but when Sarah asks to see Rebecca's sketchbook, she firmly refuses, stating that she doesn't share it until it's finished. The next day, Sarah attends her fashion design class but arrives late, so she stands by the door. Professor Roberts gives a lecture, and once the class ends, Sarah approaches him with a request. She asks if he would sign a waiver and allow her to join the class, even though it's already full. Initially, Professor Roberts refuses but suggests that she can take the class in one of the other 3 sections available. Sarah, however, expresses her preference to wait until the following year so that she can take the class with him specifically. Hearing her determination, Professor Roberts changes his mind and agrees to sign her in. The following day, Sarah and Rebecca decide to visit an art gallery. Inside, Rebecca reveals that her favorite artist is Richard Price. Sarah joins her in looking at Rebecca's beloved painting. Although the image slightly unsettles Sarah, she puts on a smile. As they continue their walk, they pass by a tattoo store. Rebecca expresses her hesitation, saying that she could never get a tattoo. Sarah, however, reassures her, saying it's not a big deal and reveals that she has a tattoo herself. She shows Rebecca the tattoo above her breast, which reads Emily. Sarah explains that Emily was her older sister who passed away when Sarah was just 9 years old. The following day, Sarah goes out for a jogging, leaving Rebecca alone in the room. While Sarah is away, Rebecca takes the opportunity to look through Sarah's belongings. She tries on Sarah's perfume and puts on her necklace. When Sarah comes back, she notices that Rebecca has been going through her things. Sarah tells her that she is welcome to borrow anything she wants except for one particular necklace. Sarah explains that the necklace is the only thing she has left of her sister, and it holds significant sentimental value to her. Steven visits the coffee house where Sarah has just started working. It's her first day on the job, and she's still getting the hang of things when she accidentally causes a blender full of smoothie to explode. Despite the mishap, Steven approaches her and asks her out to dinner. Sarah agrees to the invitation. Back at their dorm room, Rebecca is all dressed up and excited. She surprises Sarah with tickets to an art gallery show featuring the works of Richard Price, Rebecca's favorite artist. Sarah appreciates the gesture but explains that she already has plans. Seeing Rebecca's disappointed expression, Sarah decides to cancel her other plans and agrees to go with Rebecca to the gallery instead. She quickly sends Steven a text to let him know about the change of plans and cancels their dinner date. The following day, Sarah receives a text from Irene, an older friend who is from her hometown and a graduate in fashion. Irene works as a stylist and travels around the world. She currently lives in Los Angeles, and she and Sarah plan to meet up. That evening, Tracy decides to take a shower in the dormitory. As she enters the shower area, the lights suddenly go out, leaving her in darkness. Worried, she checks the room, but she doesn't find anyone or anything suspicious. Moments later, the lights come back on, and she resumes her shower. Suddenly, an unexpected and horrifying incident occurs. Tracy is attacked by an unknown person who forcefully holds the shower curtain down over her, making it difficult for her to breathe. The person whispers menacing words into her ear, accusing her of being a negative influence and calling her derogatory names. An unknown girl says that if she dares to disclose this incident to anyone, her life will be in danger. Late at night, Rebecca grows increasingly worried and frantic in the dorm room. It's already 1 a.m., and Sarah hasn't returned. Rebecca repeatedly calls Sarah's cell phone, desperately trying to reach her. Finally, she hears Sarah's voice in the hallway. Sarah is accompanied by Stephen, and they share a kiss. Just as Sarah and Stephen are about to enter the room, Rebecca steps out and confronts Sarah. She raises her voice, expressing her concern and demanding to know where Sarah has been all this time. Sarah and Stephen exchange puzzled glances, finding the situation rather strange. The next day, while walking to class, Sarah comes across Tracy and inquires about why she moved out of the dorm building. Tracy explains that she switched dorms because she felt the new one had a better atmosphere or vibe. Rebecca joins the conversation, but Tracy appears frightened and abruptly leaves, without finishing her sentence. Rebecca simply remarks that Tracy is always unreliable or unpredictable in her actions, implying that her sudden departure is not surprising. A few days later, Sarah and Stephen find themselves in a park, enjoying the view of Los Angeles after a date. Sarah brings up the question of whether they should go to her place, where there is a twin bed and a roommate, or to his place instead. They decide to go to Stephen's room, and there, they spend romantic night. Meanwhile, back in the dorm, Rebecca is once again in a state of panic because Sarah hasn't returned home. This time, she refrains from calling Sarah. However, she hears a phone ringing and realizes it's Sarah's phone, which she had left behind. The caller ID displays the name Jason. Rebecca answers the call, speaking softly as Jason talks on the other end. In a hushed voice, she confesses to him that she misses their physical intimacy and asks if he feels the same. As Jason continues to speak, Rebecca begins to engage in self-pleasure and then abruptly tells him, "Don't ever call me again," before hanging up the phone. The next day, after the class, Professor Roberts asks Sarah to meet with him in his office. He praises her and kisses her. Sarah tells everything about this to Rebecca. Hearing this, Rebecca feels angry. That evening, Rebecca goes to visit Professor Roberts at his office, pretending that she wants to enroll in his class. Desperate to secure a spot, she tells him she's willing to do anything to get in. However, when he suggests that she kiss him, Rebecca's reaction changes dramatically. She starts screaming and shouting, pleading for him to stop and expressing that he's hurting her. To his surprise, she reveals that she has recorded their entire conversation on a small recorder. With the evidence in hand, she leaves his office. The next morning, Sarah discovers that there is a substitute teacher for her class. She informs Rebecca about the rumors going around, explaining that someone had played a recorded conversation of Professor Roberts hitting on a student, just like he had done with her. The dean was informed about the incident, resulting in Professor Roberts being placed on a leave of absence. It becomes clear that he won't be returning to teach at the university. A few more weeks pass, and Sarah joins Rebecca to celebrate Thanksgiving at her family's extravagant estate in Beverly Hills. The house is massive, revealing that Rebecca comes from a wealthy background. When they arrive, Rebecca's parents, Jeff and Allison, are taken aback by her unexpected presence since she didn't inform them beforehand. The following day, Rebecca plans to show Sarah around town. During this time, Rebecca's mother takes the opportunity to have a conversation with Sarah when Rebecca is not present. She asks Sarah if she is taking her medication, expressing concern and curiosity about her well-being. The two girls explore the city and enjoy a visit to Rebecca's favorite coffee spot. However, their outing takes an uncomfortable turn when a group of girls enters the cafe and glares at Rebecca. She reveals that these girls were her acquaintances from high school. Feeling uneasy, Rebecca decides to leave with Sarah. As they make their way out, one of the girls confronts Rebecca, declaring, "You were never my friend." Upon returning to the dormitory, Sarah receives a text notifying her that Irene is back in town and suggests meeting up. Excited about the opportunity, Sarah shares the news with Rebecca. However, Rebecca expresses her own creative inspiration and decides to head to the studio to work on her sketches, indicating that she won't be waiting up for Sarah. Once Rebecca leaves, Sarah curiously rummages through her roommate's belongings and makes an unexpected discovery. She stumbles upon a prescription bottle containing medication typically used to treat mental health conditions like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Surprisingly, the medication appears to be untouched, indicating that Rebecca has likely never taken it. Suddenly, Stephen appears there. Sarah and Stephen ponder the situation and begin to consider the possibility of Sarah moving into Irene's place, thinking it might be a better option for her. Meanwhile, Rebecca deviates from her earlier plan of going to the studio. Instead, she heads to a nightclub where she finds Irene dancing and socializing with other women. In the restroom, Rebecca makes obsessive advances towards Irene, who reciprocates the interest. They decide to leave the nightclub together and go back to Irene's apartment. The next morning, Rebecca returns to the dormitory, and Sarah intends to tell her about her decision to move out. However, before she can express herself, Rebecca pleads with her to accompany her to get a tattoo. Without having the chance to say anything, Sarah reluctantly agrees and accompanies Rebecca to the tattoo parlor. While Rebecca gets her tattoo done, Sarah waits anxiously. After it's finished, Sarah asks to see the tattoo, only to discover that it's an exact replica of Sarah's own tattoo that says Emily above her breast. Shocked and disgusted, Sarah is overwhelmed by the gesture and abruptly runs out of the parlor. Feeling upset and unsettled, Sarah rushes back to the dorm, packs her belongings, and takes a taxi to Steven's fraternity house. She decides to stay there until Irene returns to town, although she has been unable to reach Irene and assumes she is out of town once again. While packing, Sarah realizes that she can't find her necklace, but she refuses to go back to the dorm to search for it. Jason, Sarah's ex-boyfriend, arrives in town and leaves a message on Sarah's phone, but she chooses not to respond. He decides to visit her dorm and slides a note under the door, expressing his desire to meet with her and requesting that she come to his hotel room, but Rebecca finds his note and comes with a plan. She enters the shower, and as she washes her hair, the dark hair dye she is using runs down her back. She is in the process of dyeing her hair to resemble Sarah's hair color. Rebecca decides to visit Jason's hotel and manages to take a room key from a maid. She undresses and quietly slips into bed next to Jason, who is sound asleep. As he starts to wake up, Rebecca kisses him and positions herself on top of him. Confused, Jason notices the necklace, the tattoo, and the familiar scent of perfume, mistaking Rebecca for Sarah. In a fit of anger, Rebecca shouts at him, insisting that Sarah doesn't love him. She then proceeds to attack him, stabbing him with Sarah's art blade. A party is happening at the frat house, and Sarah is expected to meet Steven there at 10 p.m. However, she doesn't show up. Concerned, Steven checks his phone and finds a message from Sarah. In the message, Sarah explains that Irene has returned and needs her support, so she's heading to Irene's place and wants him to meet her there. Sarah reaches Irene's apartment and notices that the front door is wide open, which worries her. With caution, she enters the apartment and starts searching for Irene. Sarah goes into the bedroom where she unexpectedly encounters Irene, who is tied to the bed and unable to speak due to a gag. To Sarah's surprise, Rebecca is also present in the room, pointing a gun at her and instructing her to sit down. Rebecca expresses her desire to be friends with Sarah and confesses that she took extreme measures by eliminating Tracy, the cat, and Professor Roberts. Sarah attempts to calm Rebecca down, assuring her that she values their friendship and pleading for forgiveness. However, the situation escalates when Steven enters the room and tries to disarm Rebecca. A chaotic brawl erupts, resulting in Steven being knocked unconscious. In the midst of the chaos, the gun slips away, sliding out of the room. Sarah and Rebecca engage in a physical altercation, overturning furniture in the process. Rebecca makes a move to retrieve the gun while Sarah swiftly locks her out of the bedroom. Sarah endeavors to free Irene, but Rebecca manages to regain possession of the gun and starts firing at the bedroom door. Irene urgently instructs Sarah to escape through the window, despite the absence of a fire escape and their considerable height from the ground. As Sarah reaches the window, Rebecca fires a shot, breaching the entry point, causing Sarah to fall out and desperately cling to the curtain. Seizing the opportunity, Steven surprises Rebecca from behind, rendering her unconscious. He pulls Sarah back up, but just as she is about to climb back inside, Rebecca delivers a powerful blow to Steven, rendering him unconscious once again. Determined, Rebecca forcefully pulls Sarah back into the room, resulting in a fierce exchange of blows. Sarah eventually gains control of the gun, pointing it at Rebecca, who doubts her willingness to shoot. Despite pulling the trigger, Sarah realizes the gun is empty. Rebecca screams and lunges at Sarah, leading to another intense struggle. In the midst of the fight, Sarah knocks over her purse, causing its contents, including her art blade, to spill out. Sarah, gasping for breath, manages to grab the blade and stabs Rebecca in the back, firmly stating, "I was never your friend." Sarah rushes to Steven, who is beginning to regain consciousness, and retrieves her necklace from Rebecca, who succumbs to her injuries. In the epilogue, Sarah finds herself settling into a new dormitory, and to her delight, Steven joins her in the same room. With mischievous intent, she requests his assistance with a particular task. Together, they maneuver the extra bed out into the hallway, leaving it there as a playful act of dormitory shenanigans. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe my channel for more movie recaps.